We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Senior Editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And in Washington, D.C. this week, a lot of work being done to meet certain end-of-the-year timelines, certain self-imposed and really statutorily imposed deadlines. A lot of things that want to happen, that the members of Congress want to see happen before December 31st, before the end of the calendar year. And so we're going to break down a few different things that have happened, some of them deadline specific, some of them more just issues that have been bubbling up for a while, but we want to make sure we get the information to you. And Phil, want to start with something that we've been talking about for weeks and months here, that of course being tax reform. Working its way through Capitol Hill, we saw both the House and Senate vote this week to go to conference with that legislation. Conference is kind of a foreign concept around Capitol Hill anymore. Not a lot of bills actually go through that process. So Phil, question that we need to answer is, where do we go from here?
Well, this is priority 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for the Republicans, on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue. And yes, they have some big issues to settle in the next couple of weeks ahead of Christmas. Everyone is determined to get this, on the Republican side anyway, to get this bill on President Trump's desk before Christmas. And they have some big issues that they've got to settle between now and then.
And so
differences between the House and Senate bill.
Of course, House and Senate negotiators now going through the process of actually formulating the real legislation. And Phil, the issues that we've been talking about up until this point, pass-throughs and et cetera, really appear to remain the same issues that need to be ironed out in the conference process.
Well, the biggest issue as far as agriculture is concerned, as far as the producer is concerned, is the rates and the rules for pass-throughs. Sole proprietorships, partnerships, S-corps. They have very different approaches in the House and Senate bill. You look at the numbers that I've seen, the Senate bill pencils out better, except at the very low end. Basically, the Senate bill creates a new 23% deduction that would come off your business income. There's a limit to that above $500,000 in income, but that's basically this 23% deduction in the Senate bill. House bill is very different. It instead of having all of your pass-through income taxed at the individual rates, it creates a new top rate of 25% for that income that's considered return on capital, which is under this bill 30%, and then there's a new low rate of 9%. Completely different approaches to it, both intended to cut the effective tax rate on small business and farms, pass-throughs.
Mm-hmm. And another thing we want to mention this week is a meeting that happened today. We say today, we're recording this on a Thursday afternoon, and that being a meeting between Senator Ted Cruz and a number of administration officials regarding the renewable fuel standard and really just renewable fuels policy as a broader concept. Phil was able to get reaction from a number of senators that were walking out of this meeting that was really called as a result of demands from Senator Cruz and a hold placed on Bill Northey's USDA Undersecretary nomination. Phil, what were you able to gather as kind of reaction to the senators of this meeting?
Well, going into it, talking to folks, but going into it, I think the most they really expected to get out of it was they hoped a commitment from the president to address this issue of basically the RIN prices, the biofuel credits, which the refiners have been very upset about. Apparently the president, we're told, every senator told us that the president wants a solution, and he wants something that's going to be mutually beneficial both to corn growers and to refiners. Exactly how you get that, I do not know. The senators didn't say. Apparently they discussed some ideas. They didn't settle anything. They would only say that there was a commitment to move forward to get everybody involved, including presumably the ethanol industry, at the table to come up with something. That's Doesn't sound like that's anything that's going to happen very soon. Wasn't even clear whether it was going to be administrative, if there was going to have to be something legislative, which is a really heavy lift.
Especially if it's going to be mutually beneficial for both stakeholders. That's a heavy lift for any negotiator, even the one that claims to be a master negotiator in the White House. And so that'll be a heavy lift, and certainly something to follow. And as I mentioned, a hold is currently placed on the USDA nomination, very critical to the Department of Agriculture, very critical to the state of Iowa, where a number of pro-RFS lawmakers reside, and that being Bill Northey, of course. And we now go to noted body language expert Phil Brasher for his reaction. You said you talked with Senator Cruz about whether or not this hold was going to be lifted, and how exactly did Senator Cruz react to that line of questioning?
Asked his question as he was going into a meeting off the Senate floor with other Republican senators. He clearly heard me. He looked down, seemed to ponder the question, and walked in the room without saying anything.
So we'll take that as the senator's official response to the question. No comment, body language comment, read into that what you wish, but still no official news on whether or not that hold on Bill Northey's nomination or that of Greg Dowd by Senator Jeff Flake will be lifted as well.
It's important to point out, I asked Cruz earlier in this week,
correct,
what it would take to get him to release the Northey nomination, because initially when they asked for this meeting, that seemed to be the only demand. But again, I asked Senator Cruz what it would take, and he said a resolution. We have to get it. He wants to see it resolved.
Need to solve the problem.
So if he's not bluffing, he really wants a solution. It could be a while.
It could be a while, and want to wrap up this week talking about something that cannot be a while. It's a very immediate deadline for Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill. That, of course, being government funding scheduled to expire on Friday of this week. But Phil, it looks like that deadline is not going to be one that folks really have to worry about in the immediate future here.
Yeah, there's agreement now to extend government funding until December 22nd. The Friday before Christmas, and so we have another 2 weeks to figure this out. It's certain we're going to have to go into January before we get a government-wide spending bill for the rest of fiscal 2018, which, oh, by the way, started October 1st. So it looks like we're going to January, but there's still exactly what's going to happen on December 22nd, what might be attached to that as well. The Republicans, conservatives in the House who've been demanding that defense spending be put in that, put in whatever that continuing resolution on the 22nd. We'll see. That would be unacceptable to Democrats who want to raise the budget caps for domestic spending and not just defense spending. So still a lot to be determined. It's going to be a busy 2 weeks around here.
A lot of things up in the air, and we'll be sure to try and keep an eye on all of the balls that are bouncing right now and see which ones are going to come to a rest and what that means for all of you out in the countryside once those policy resolutions do come about. So I think that's going to do it for this week's Washington Week in Review. Certainly appreciate you stopping by. But for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.